Hello students, this is Siddharth Mehta and today I will be discussing the logical reasoning section of CLAT 2023. So herein we will discuss the five passages that came in the logical reasoning section and each passage had six questions. So I will be taking you through all the passages and all the questions. But before I go ahead, let me tell you what will be my process. So I will show you each passage. You can stop the video, you can read the passage, and after you have read the passage, then you should move ahead to look at the solutions. Now, for every passage, I will be giving you a brief summary of that passage, paragraph wise, what a particular paragraph in that passage is talking about. Then, while marking the questions, I will keep few things in mind. So, for example, while I'm marking the question, I will not mark an option which is talking in too extreme manner. I will not mark an option which is not being discussed in the passage. So, out of scope. Something which is not mentioned in the passage, I'm not going to mark it. Then I'm also not going to mark something which seems too broad or too narrow, or what I mean to say is something which is very vague in nature. So these are a few things that I will keep in mind before marking any option. So this is the first passage. You can simply stop your video, read it once, and then move ahead to watch the solution. All right. So, what is this passage about? So, the first paragraph it talks about while men and women are both considered to be more capable as they get older, only women bear the brunt of being seen as less warm as they age. So, this is important. The first paragraph actually talks about that women bear the brunt of being seen as less warm than men as both age. And the lines from this third line onwards, the author is citing a research study and what that research has found. So these stereotypes are so hardwired and deeply entrenched that they come out even when absolutely identical information is provided about a man and a woman. So what is suggested here is that even if we give identical information about men and women, but people perceive the information in a different manner for a man as compared to women. Jennifer Chapman, distinguished professor of management, as this said, in an analysis of professors' evaluation, female professor witnessed a decline as they moved from their 30s to 40s, hitting an all-time low around age of 47. So there is a decline in the uh, in how women are perceived as less warm, right? So this is being talked about in the first paragraph. Example is been given in the second paragraph. The same thing has been continued, how women are perceived differently, and then there are several things that author has talked about. So one is motherhood penalty. So in 30s and 40s, author has talked about that they go through motherhood penalty, which means that people start believing that because of parental duties, women are less committed to their careers than men. This is the motherhood penalty, and author has talked about the repercussions that this has in promotion, hiring, and wages of a woman. Then the another point it has that the passage has talks about is hyper scrutiny. Scrutiny means evaluation. So women go through hyper scrutiny. Then gendered network. This is also being talked about. Gendered networks in the workplace, with men gaining greater access to senior leaders, become cemented mid-career, pose another difficulty for working women. That means that women find it difficult to network with leaders, senior leaders. Then something related to menopause is also mentioned. It talks about um, in 2008, psychologists studied the attitudes of people toward women in different reproductive ages. They found that while pregnant women or women with a baby were thought about in glowing terms, menopausal women were associated with negative emotions. So all these things are being mentioned. The basic idea is that how women are perceived differently as compared to men as they age. So various aspect of it being talked about. Let us see which of the following is most likely to be true if the author's statement about gendered network in the workplace are true. So we have seen that about gendered network. Author has said that men find it easy to network with the senior leaders. So A, mid-career women do not find it easy to get access to senior leaders who are usually male as their male colleague. They therefore find career progression or new opportunities easier to come. So the first part is right. The first part is right here, right? The problem is with the second part. They therefore find career progression or new opportunities easier to come. How can they find it easier to come? It will be difficult to come if they cannot access to the senior leaders. So this option itself is bit incoherent in nature. So this cannot be the answer. B, mid-career women find it easier to get access to senior leaders. This is wrong. They find it easier is not being mentioned. This is opposite of being what is being talked about, and that is why B cannot be the answer. Mid-career women do not find it as easy to get access to senior leaders who are usually male as their male colleagues. So first part is right. They therefore find career progression or new opportunities harder to come. Everything right about this option. So this should be the right answer. Let us see D also. Mid-career women find it easier to get access. Again, problem here. So opposite of what is being mentioned. Question number 2, which of the following is most likely to be an outcome of what the author describes as motherhood penalty? So motherhood penalty author has said that the people perceive women as less serious to men and during this period. People are more hesitant to hire men from their mid-30s. See, out of his scope. The passage doesn't even talk about men, so this cannot be the answer. People are more hesitant to hire women from their mid-30s to their late 40s, but maybe more willing to hire men of similar age. Looks good. Women from their mid-30s to their late 40s always prioritize parenting responsibilities. Cannot be the answer. This is what people perceive, author says. And plus, this is also extreme that they always prioritize, not mentioned in the presses. Women who have children are less committed to their careers than men. Again, not being talked about in the passage. So answer is option number B. If professors' evaluation are the most important criteria in awarding promotion, then which of the following would be the most likely outcome based on the information provided in the passage? So what the passage or the professor's evaluation has suggested is that the women they reach all-time low in the age in the mid 40s, right? 30 to 40, they it decreases. Male professors are likely to be promoted at an even rate throughout their career, while women professors would experience a lower likelihood of promotion in the mid-career stage. That's what he has talked about. So this looks a very, very good option, but let us check the other options also. Since there is a wide disparity between the evaluations that male and female professors receive, the practice of relying upon such evaluation will quickly be abandoned. This is not even talked about, so this cannot be the answer. Male and female professors will receive promotions at a similar rate throughout the course of their career, opposite of what is being talked about in the passage. Women professors are likely to be promoted at an even rate throughout their career, opposite of what is being mentioned in the passage. So answer is option number A, very easy. Which of the following is the author most likely to disagree with? Disagree with. So opposite of what author has suggested. Women going through menopause often quit the workforce voluntarily, not being mentioned in the passage. Women going through menopause are more likely to be perceived negatively at the workplace and to have difficulty achieving professional success. Yes, this is being mentioned in the last line that they are perceived negatively. So this could be the answer. Let us look at C and D. Women getting through menopause should be permitted to take mid-career sabbatical. Something again not discussed in the passage. Women going through menopause are more likely to be perceived positively. Again, opposite of what is being mentioned. So if you look at the options, most of the options are either not mentioned or are direct opposite of what is being talked about. Which of the following, if true, would most strengthen the main argument in the passage? Several independent studies conducted have shown that women in workplace are perceived positively and favorably. Can this be the answer? No. This is just opposite of what the main argument is. The main argument is that they are perceived negatively as they age. Several independent studies conducted in different countries have shown that women in the workplace are perceived negatively and are unfairly treated as they age. Looks a very good option. Let us look at C. The studies mentioned in the passage have been discredited after they were published. So can this be the right answer? Obviously not, because we have to strengthen the main argument, and the main argument, as we have seen, is how women are perceived negatively. The studies mentioned in the passage were conducted on a very small sample sets. Cannot be the answer because we once again are not being asked to find what is the flaw in the studies. We are actually supposed to strengthen the study. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken Laura Cray's argument? So Laura Cray's argument is about grandmotherly, and if you don't recall it, then all the four options are about that. So Laura Cray's argument about grandmotherly, you can check once what it is about. It's here. At that point, there are different stereotype of women, and they may benefit from being seen as more grandmotherly. Say Laura Clay. Okay, so they benefit from it. So something positive is being talked about. Women professors perceived as being grandmotherly are regarded as being likable and caring. Yeah. Women professors perceived as being are treated better by their colleagues and students. So we have to find something which weakens the argument. So we have to mark at the option which says that they are not treated positively, right? So A is being treated positively, B is being treated positively. Women professors perceived as being grandmotherly are regarded as being slow, inefficient, and outdated. This looks a very good option because this gives me a negative picture of grandmotherly women. Women professors perceived as being grandmotherly are regarded very highly and receive much more respect. So this again talks in a positive fashion. So answer has to be C. This is the second paragraph. All right, so you can read it once by stopping the video. Okay, now what this paragraph talks about, the topic is a bit complex, but you know, if you identify the key points, it is not very difficult. So what the first paragraph talks about is that um, decline in currency should be viewed within the set of macroeconomic factors. So the first line itself says that the depreciation of an economy's currency is not a matter of concern in itself. The decline must be viewed within a set of macroeconomic factors. So the fall in currency is not a matter of concern. You need to look at it from the macroeconomic factors. And then he has talked about that rupees fall is caused due to the Russia-Ukraine war. And these lines are explanation of how war has led to fall in rupee. So these few lines are explanation of that, right? But if I have to say summary of the first paragraph, that is the summary. Then in the second paragraph, author talks about that there is a challenge in front of RBI, and that challenge is if they sell dollars to stem the fall of currency. So if they have to stem the fall of rupee, they can sell more dollars, make dollars available in the market. But if they do that, that will cause the erosion of forex kitty. So they have to, if they take a particular step, it will cause in the erosion of forex kitty. And he's saying RBI has actually done that, right? So he's saying that this is what RBI has exactly done. This is what he's saying, right? Then he talks about Indian economy is not at its best. Exports also unable to take advantage of falling rupee. So although rupee is falling, but exports are not able to take the exact fit of it. The last paragraph talks about again the challenge that RBI has: controlling inflation versus stimulating growth and stabilizing the rupee without severely diminishing the foreign exchange kitty. So it talks about what are the challenges in front of RBI. Let us look at the question. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree? It is a major cause of concern if an economy's currency is depreciating. See, this is not the right answer. If you read the first line, he is saying that the fall in currency itself is not a major cause of concern. We need to look at it from the macroeconomic factor. Answer is option number B. Let us look at C and D. The fact that Indian rupee is witnessing decline in value against major currency is very worrisome. The problem here is word very. He is worried about it, but very makes it extreme. A central bank must always do everything. Look at the tone. Must always do everything. Extreme again. Let us not mark it as the answer. Based on the author's argument, which of the following, if true, would reduce the decline in value of the rupee? Appointing a new governor for the RBI, has it even been mentioned about? A steep increase in commodity prices and a continued disruption in supply chain not being talked about. A reduction in worldwide inflationary trends and the reduction of interest rates in developed country market. This is the reason that he has talked about. So answer is option number C. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's argument? The Indian economy has been affected by global inflationary trends and increase of interest rates in developed country market. Okay. Since developed country markets have increased their interest rate, global investors have pulled their investments out of the economies and routed them to such developed country markets. This cannot weaken. Actually, this is something which is strengthening the author's argument. Author has said this thing. See, as the demand for US dollar increases, it is likely the rupee price of a dollar would increase substantially. If the demand for US dollar increases, the rupee price of a dollar would increase substantially. Okay. The Indian economy and currency are highly protected and have been insulated from the effects of global inflationary trend. So this definitely is something against the author's view. So answer has to be D. Remember, he has said that the Indian economy is not doing its best. And the entire passage he has tried to build up the scenario wherein it is being getting affected by macroeconomic factors. And this says direct opposite that it is being insulated from global inflationary trends. So D is something which is weakening the argument. Option number A and B, they are not being discussed in the passage. So answer is D. Which of the following, if true, would most strengthen the author's argument for why Indian exports may not be able to take advantage of falling rupee? So author has suggested that even though rupee is falling, the exports are not able to take its complete advantage. What could be the reason? Economies across the world are witnessing slowdown, and in such economies, demand for imports decrease substantially. Okay. Economies across the world are booming, and there is an increasing demand for Indian exports, right? So if there is an increasing demand for Indian exports, so will it strengthen the author's argument? No, it's not going to strengthen. Actually, it will weaken the author argument. So this is not the right answer. A reduction in the volume of export would be more than offset by the increased value of dollars than Indian exporters would earn. See, he has said that Indian exports are not able to take complete advantage, right? So answer has to be option number A because it says that economies across the world are witnessing, and in such economies, demand for imports decrease substantially. If demand for imports are decreasing, then India is not able to export. Let us look at the other option D, which we have left. Countries across the world have managed to find ways to insulate themselves from the effect of Russian-Ukraine war, and we need a lot of Indian imports. If they need a lot of Indian imports, right, then export should increase. Okay, but the question is asking me which of the following, if true, would most strengthen the author's argument. So this is again weakening the author's argument. All right, so answer is option A. Based on the author's argument, which of the following must necessarily be true? The continuing depreciation of the Indian rupee at its current rate, coupled with worldwide inflationary trend, would result in immense political instability, not being discussed in the passage. If nothing else is done, the rise of interest rate in developed country market coupled with hardening of inflationary trend across the world will result in fall of the value of the rupee against the dollar. He has suggested this. See, if inflationary trend continues to harden across the world, and if interest rate in developed country market continue to rise, portfolio investor will increase their investment in India. Opposite, portfolio investor will take away the money. That's what is being talked about. If nothing else is done, the rise of interest rate in developed country market coupled with hard trade across the world will result in rise in the value of rupee against the dollar. Will it result in rise in value of the rupee or fall? Answer is option B. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? The RBI must not focus solely on preventing the depreciation of the rupee, as that may result in negative impacts on the other aspect of economy. So that is what he has suggested, that their focus should be on multiple things. Second, the RBI must focus solely on preventing the depreciation, opposite of what author has suggested. Periodic inflationary trends are normal in any economy and RBI need not worry about. So he has said that RBI has challenge in front of it. So even C cannot be the answer. The RBI need not do anything to reduce the rate of depreciation of the rupee. Answer is A. B, C, D are very, easy to eliminate option. Next passage. Okay. So this passage talks about The reasons for human beings so susceptible to doom and the gloom of the news. So basically, it talks about that why human beings like the doom and gloom news. The author has given two reasons. One is negativity bias, which says that we are more attuned to bad than good. That we when that bad things catches our attention easily than the good news. Second is availability bias. Availability bias means that we believe that if something is easily available, it is more common in occurrence. And author has suggested that negative news is easily available. That's what social media does to us, and how social media is exploiting our vulnerability. This is being talked about in last paragraph. That what social media is doing to our vulnerability. Vulnerability means point number A and B. Okay. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's argument? Behavioral traits that helped us in days when we were hunter gatherers continue to be present in modern day humans. Behavioral traits that helped us in days when we were hunter gatherers are no longer found in modern day humans. This is something which will weaken because he has said that in the first paragraph. Back in our hunting and gathering days, we were better off being frightened of a spider or a snake 100 times too often than one time too few. Too much fear wouldn't kill you, too little surely would. So he is saying that we are still like that, right? We fear too much because we believe that too much fear will not kill us. But if we don't fear, then surely we can get killed. So answer is option number B. The negativity bias makes us more likely to be affected by depressing or sad news. So this is something which is in line with author's argument. So cannot be weakening. We have certain behavioral characteristics that affect how we perceive and are affected by said. This is again being talked about by the author, so again cannot weaken. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? Contemporary media continuously exposes us to exciting news and information which may be just like the things we usually experience. First part is true, but author has said that the kind of news that they expose is unlike what we see in our life. So second part is wrong. Contemporary media continuously exposes us to exciting news and information, which may be very unlike the kind of things we encounter. Yes, contemporary media continuously exposes us to boring news. Question mark. Author has not said boring news. In fact, he has said just opposite. So both option C and D can be ruled out. Based only on the author's statement that we would prefer having nice neighbors and boring lives, and the author's argument about the nature of news that modern media exposes us to, which of the following would the author be most likely to agree? Okay. Constantly being exposed to negative news gives us warped perspective of the world. Okay. In our hunting and gathering days, it was better for us to be unnecessarily scared rather than being scared too little. This is true, but no, but what look at what is being asked about. Okay, he has said based only on the author's statement. So only these two statements. This is being mentioned, but this is mentioned in the first paragraph. The news modern media exposes us to is just like our day-to-day experience, opposite of what author will agree. The news modern media exposes us to is very different from our day-to-day experiences. This is the right answer. A is something which we cannot say that it gives us a vague perspective. Okay. Author's statement about negativity bias, if true, provide more support for which of the following conclusion? So here we say that we are more likely to catch a negative news than positive news. We are more likely to notice a story of billionaire donating their money to charity than a story about a plane crash. Opposite of what being talked about. We will catch negative news more than the positive news. We are more likely to be attracted to a news article about a rise in life expectancy in our country than a news article about murder in our city. Once again, opposite of what is being talked about. So even this cannot be the right answer. We are more likely to notice a story about increasing pollution level than a story about improving education level. This is the right answer because here we talk about something being catching some negative news catching our attention than the positive news. D, we are more likely to form our opinion of the world based on the information available to us rather than the information we do not have access to. This is right, but this is not with regard to negativity bias. This is something what we have called as availability bias. So answer is option number C. Which of the following would be the most effective way of countering the effects of what the author describes as availability bias? Now, availability bias is something which author says that we we believe that whatever news is available more to be the common occurrence. So how can we avoid that? Ensuring that we do not seek out news sources and stories that we may not otherwise have been exposed to. If we keep on doing this, then we cannot avoid the availability bias. Following only one news source and limiting our perspective of the world to that one news source. If we follow only one news source, so that even then this doesn't get fulfilled. Avoiding all positive news stories and instead only reading news story about disaster and tragedy. This has to do with negativity bias. Ensuring that we seek out news sources and stories that we may not otherwise have been exposed to. This is the right answer. Next, the author says that the fact we are bombarded daily with horrific stories about aircraft disaster, child snatchers, and beheadings, which tends to lodge in the memory, completely skew our view of world. The conclusion author draws in this argument follows logically if which of the following is assumed. So, author is saying that whatever we hear, the horrific stories, they skew our view of the world. Our ideas about the world are shaped by the information we are exposed to. This looks a very good assumption, because if I negate this, that we are not shaped by the information, then this entire argument or the conclusion that information skews our worldview falls flat. So answer should be A, but let us look at the other options also. Modern media is concerned only with making massive profits, not given. Modern journalists generate news stories much faster than in old days, not related at all with this argument. Humans once lived as hunter-gatherers, mentioned in the passage, but not related to what is being talked about. Answer is option number A. All right. So this is the next paragraph. All right. So this paragraph, what does it talk about? So this paragraph talks about that there is a puzzling situation in front of developed countries. Developed countries are battering because fast heating planet, because extreme conditions of weather, and on one hand they are battering with these things, and there is lack of energy also. Author is then given example of United States. So there is a puzzling situation in front of developed countries. On one hand, they are facing extreme conditions, but they also have lack of energy. Then author is given example of US. The second paragraph then talks about energy disruption. Because of this energy disruption, it is leading to more use of fossil fuel, which is also polluting. So these fossil fuels are also polluting in nature, and countries have started to focus on renewable energy. In the final few lines, author is suggesting that the interest in fossil fuel should be temporary, and investment made in the fossil fuels should not be used as an excuse that because we have made so much investment, we cannot use renewable energy now. And also, author is giving another warning that these countries should not use more fossil fuel, and they should actually leave some carbon budget space for poorer countries. So this is what the entire paragraph in summary talks about, the key points. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree? People in US are not worried at all. Look at the extreme word. Rule it out. People in the US are worried about climate change, and these concerns affect their energy consumption habits more than anything else. They are worried about climate change, and these concerns affect their energy consumption habit more than anything else. So can I say that more than anything else part is there? So of course I can say that they are concerned about it, but I cannot say that they are worried more than anything else. Climate change has resulted in the increase of energy prices across the world, and as a result, government have had to invest. So there is no cause and effect relationship being mentioned that climate change has resulted in increase of energy prices across the world. Even that is not mentioned. To two problems here, cause and effect relationship is not mentioned, and across the world is also not. The change in the energy consumption habit of people in US are affected more by energy prices than concerns of climate change. This is true, right? Because the first paragraph, the example talks about it, that The changes in the energy consumption, because the energy prices went high, they reduce the consumption, but now prices are down and it is business as usual. Which of the following is most similar to the author's statement about developed countries' renewed interest in fossil fuels? Developed countries should not, under any circumstances, invest in any resource in fossil fuels energy extraction and must immediately put a halt. He has not said that. In fact, he has said that for the time being, they need to do that, but they should not do it in a permanent basis. Things could improve if developed countries recognize the difficulty of moving away from reliance on such sources of energy and make a conscious effort to move to alternate or quick renewable energy or renewable energy sources quickly. Okay. Since investment in energy extraction of any kinds are very expensive, developed countries must ensure that they make permanent and continuing investment. Opposite of what author has suggested, developing countries must not, under any circumstances, consume fossil fuels. This is again not what author has suggested, that they must not under any circumstances. So answer is option number B. If the information in the passage above is correct, which of the following must necessarily be true? The fossil fuel industry in developing countries will face reduced sale in short term with increased sale in long term. It is opposite. Yes, said that they are focusing more in fossil fuel now. So in the immediate term, that they can see the increase in fossil fuel sale. The cost of making, installing, and using solar panels will reduce substantially in the coming years, not being talked about in the passage. Passing a bill in the US is a huge effort, and it would not have been possible to pass the new climate bill unless the current energy crisis had been compelled, not being talked about. The fossil fuel industry in developing will see an increase in business, at least in short term. This is definitely what we can say. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's argument about why travel and fuel consumption in the US reduced this summer? So author has suggested that it reduced because of the increased in the prices. If we can tell that it is not because of increase in the prices, the argument will get weakened. People like to travel rest regardless of season, and the only thing that would prevent them from traveling at any time of the year would be high cost. This is strengthening the author's argument, so cannot be the answer. Airlines raised ticket prices as a response to increase in fuel prices, and therefore fewer people were ever able to buy air ticket. This is again strengthening. This is strengthening. This is strengthening. Cannot be the answer. Strict lockdowns were imposed in the US summer, because of which people traveled less. Further, temperatures were moderate, and this meant people had to use less fuel to heat or warm their homes. So, this is giving me the reason that it is not because of the increased fuel prices, right? But it is because of a strict lockdown that people traveled less. This is weakening. So, this is the right answer. Widespread geopolitical tension in the first half of the year meant that fuel prices were an all-time high, but prices have now eased off somewhat, making fuel slightly more affordable in US, not related with the argument at all. Which of the following, if true, would resolve the conundrum the author says developed countries face now? The development of adequate renewable power sources in the near term that would lead to reduction in consumption of fossil fuel. So he has suggested that we should focus more on renewable energy and try to focus less on fossil fuel. Finding new sources of fossil fuel that will ensure that there is no shortage of energy to heat homes in summer, not his main suggestion. Switching immediately to renewable power sources, even if it leads to shortage in energy supply, not the answer. Providing adequate aid to poorer countries so they can develop renewable power sources for their use, out of scope. Answer is A. Assuming the aim of US climate bill is to reduce fossil fuel consumption, which of the following would be the strongest argument that it will fail to achieve such an aim? They want to reduce fossil fuel consumption. The bill promotes investment in renewable energy but does not provide for enough increase in investment in developing more sources of fossil fuel powered energy. So it promotes renewable energy, which is good. The bill is written in technical language which ordinary people cannot easily understand. So no requirement for ordinary people to understand. It is up to the policymakers and the implementers. The bill is self-defeating since it makes investment in renewable energy conditional to more expenditure on oil and gas and making millions of hectares of federal land available for drilling, which would lead to increase in consumption of oil. So this is saying that the bill is self-defeating. Why? Because it is making use of renewable energy conditional. This will lead to increase in fossil fuel. So answer is option number C. All right. So this is the last paragraph. Okay. So the last paragraph passage talks about mass media is increasingly mistrusted. And it says that how newspaper continues to defy this trend of being mistrusted. During the lockdown, people read newspaper more, right? Because this period was coincided with spread of misinformation on other social media. So people spent more time reading newspaper in lockdown as compared to what they normally do. So this is a good part about newspaper reading. The bad part is being talked about in second paragraph, but there is negative news also for print media. Readers and revenue are migrating to other formats. So they are migrating to other formats like social media. Pandemic affected print media in terms of advertising. So pandemic has one good thing that people read it more, but in terms of advertising, pandemic had a negative effect. And newspaper are outpaced by speedier, though doubtful sources. So there are several sources which gives news quickly, but they are doubtful. Newspaper must center on using the collective trust to remain competitive and profitable. They should focus to do in-depth analysis. So author, the basic thing that author has suggested is that because of the lockdown, because of the pandemic, newspaper has seen some positive things happening, newspaper has seen some negative things happening, and author has suggested that newspaper should keep on building the trust that they have already command. They should try to remain competitive and profitable and do in-depth analysis. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree? The COVID pandemic was unmitigated disaster for newspaper industry. Unmitigated disaster means only negative impact. Author has said that both positive and negative has happened. Option B is right. The COVID-19 pandemic only had good, again, one-sided view. The COVID-19 pandemic had no effect. It had effect. So answer is B. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's argument? Social media is a reliable source of true and accurate news and information. Social media is highly unreliable source of news and information. So this is not weakening, this is strengthening the author's argument. Social media is a good way for people to stay connected with each other. This is not author's argument. Our author has said that social media gives doubtful information. Social media is a speedier source. So this is again strengthening the author's argument. Answer is option number A. Which of the following would be an effective way of making print media more competitive? So, as far as the competitiveness is suggested, author has suggested that the newspaper are less speedier, and that is why they lose edge, slowing down the process of print media production. This is definitely not suggested way. Using more expensive printing methods that achieve better print quality, even if it results in newspaper becoming more expensive. So, when we talk about competitiveness, it has to do with speed. That is what is being discussed in the passage. Only publishing newspaper on alternate days. I don't know how this will help. Developing ways of ensuring that print media can reach readers more speedily. This is the problem he is saying. Because speed is a problem, people rely on other doubtful sources of information. Based on the author's argument, which of the following, if true, would have resulted in weakening rather than deepening of public trust in newspaper? Now, author has suggested that public started trusting newspaper because other sources provided misinformation. So, if we can suggest that other sources do not provide misinformation or newspaper also provide misinformation, then that would weaken. Newspaper were very careful in ensuring they reported accurate and true news. So, this cannot be the answer. Newspaper played a leading role in exposing lies and misinformation spread during the lockdown. This again is positive of newspaper. Newspaper actively disseminated misinformation during the lockdown and made no efforts to expose lies. This is the right answer. Newspaper alerted the public. If they have alerted the public, then that is not weakening the trust. That is strengthening the trust. So A, B, and D all are strengthening the public trust. What would be the impact of readership and revenues of print media if the image were not dominant over text as a cultural phenomena? So author has suggested because image is now more dominant over text, people are shifting to social media. If that wouldn't have been the case, what would be the case? Case would be that print media wouldn't have seen that decline. Print media would not suffer as much of reduction in readership and revenue as readers shifted to other formats. This should be the right answer. Print media would suffer a greater reduction. Why will they suffer greater reduction? There would be no impact. There would be an increased demand from readers that newspaper carry more images. If they do not like images, if the culture is not dominated by images, then why would readers ask for more images? Simply mixed of words option. How does the author suggest newspaper can overcome the problem of being outpaced by speedier source of information? Author has suggested in the last line that they should focus on profitability and do in-depth analysis. They offer direct means by which newspaper can become faster to publish and deliver to readers. He has not said that. In fact, in the last few lines, if you go and read, he has said that do in-depth analysis and try to remain competitive. Okay. They encourage a complete and immediate shift to digital media. Extreme option. They have not suggested that. They offer ways to reduce production cost, which would offset and losses caused by readers shifting allegiance to faster source. Nowhere in the passage the ways are being suggested to reduce the production cost. They offer alternative means for newspaper to become competitive and profitable, but do not solve the problem of how newspaper can become faster source of information. Right? So answer is option number D. So it has been suggested that or they should try to become more competitive and profitable. But of course, nothing is being suggested about the how they can become faster. In fact, what they have suggested is now because you cannot be fast, at least try to be in depth in your analysis. All right. So that is it about this discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.